Doctor Who, The 1 Second Hour. It strikes me, Lethbridge Stewart, that it's high time somebody put this fellow, what's his name, Who, firmly in his place. From what you've told me, he comes and goes as he pleases, conforms to none of our well-established security procedures, completely disregards the need for proper reports to be made of all work. Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, commanding officer of unit, shifted uncomfortably in his seat as the rich, rounded voice of Sir Norman Ormsby droned on, and on, and on. How often, thought Lethbridge Stewart, have I said exactly the same things to the Doctor? Can I really have sounded as pompous, as self-satisfied, as confoundedly smug as this idiot Ormsby? No wonder the Doctor has never taken the slightest bit of notice. Takes no notice. Lethbridge Stewart was suddenly made uncomfortably aware that he had spoken the last parts of his thoughts aloud, and that Ormsby was now glaring at him across the desk, his fleshy face flushed red with anger. If he takes no notice of you, my dear Brigadier, then he must be made to take notice of me. I have some experience of handling people of his type. One doesn't spend a lifetime in the civil service without running across plenty of these so-called awkward customers. But never one like the Doctor, thought Lethbridge Stewart as he followed Ormsby's immaculately suited figure to the waiting limousine. And don't think your winning ways are going to work on him. You can bully or you can beg. The Doctor will simply go on doing what he wants to do in the way he wants to do it. And thank goodness for that. If we'd relied on security procedures, office hours and reports made out in triplicate, then the Master would have run rings around us long ago. And come to think of it, Ormsby reminds me of the Master in one way. They're both crazy for power, and neither of them is fit to be trusted with one iota of it. Ormsby settled himself comfortably on the wide leather seat and leaned forward to tap on the glass partition that divided him from the uniformed chauffeur at the wheel. "Drive us to unit headquarters," he ordered. "The Brigadier will tell you the way. And get a move on. I have a feeling as I shall find a very great deal to do there. Yes," with a glance at the gloomy Lethbridge Stewart, "a very great deal indeed." "Now, remember, Captain Yates, I shall come through that door, move across the room, and stand by the wall there, in front of the sandbags." The Doctor's pointing finger indicated the piled sandbags reaching from floor to ceiling of one section of the wall of the long laboratory. "You will be standing 10 feet away, here, with the submachine gun. When I raise my arm, you are to fire the entire magazine at me." "But, Doctor..." Captain Mike Yates eyed the tall, cloaked figure with dismay. Suppose that this stuff of yours doesn't work. In that case, Captain, I shall be needing a new waistcoat, not to mention a new body to put inside it." "This is the laboratory, Sir Norman. We may find the Doctor inside. If he has kindly decided to put in an appearance at all, I suppose. I hope you informed him that you'll be bringing the new Director of Security to inspect unit today." "I told him all right," thought Lethbridge Stewart, "and I tried to warn him what an overbearing, unpleasant, arrogant old bully you are. And why the Prime Minister had to put you in overall charge of top security, I don't know. Oh well, here goes." And Lethbridge Stewart pulled open the door of the laboratory and stepped politely aside to allow Ormsby to enter first. Ormsby stepped through the door, and Lethbridge Stewart, following, heard his brief cry of shock and horror before the staccato hammering of the submachine gun, deafening in the enclosed space, drowned it out. "Merciful heavens!" Ormsby swung around on the Brigadier, his face ashen. "Lethbridge Stewart, one of your men has gone mad. That scientist chap of yours is in there, and someone has just shot him." Brushing past the trembling Ormsby, Lethbridge Stewart was in the laboratory. The bitter reek of burnt cordite filled the air, and there, his face a mask of shock, a submachine gun cradled in his arms, was Captain Yates. Apart from Yates, the long room was empty. "Yates! What the devil?" "Brigadier, it was the Doctor. He ordered me to fire at him, and when I did, he disappeared." "Ah, there you are, gentlemen. Captain Yates, as you can see, I am still without a hole in my waistcoat. Your aim was good, though. Very good." And the Doctor was advancing across the laboratory towards them. They watched him come, Yates in open-mouthed amazement, Lethbridge Stewart with a sinking feeling as he waited for Ormsby's outburst. And Ormsby, "Will someone have the goodness to tell me just what is going on?" Ormsby had flushed as red as a turkey cock. "Is this a madhouse? An officer running amok with a gun, shooting at people who disappear. You, Who or whatever your name is, speak up, man. With a grim smile, the doctor held out his hands, fists clenched towards Ormsby. Then he opened his fingers. From his clenched hands, small objects of dull metal fell to bounce on the floor at Ormsby's feet. 28 conical shapes, each around half-inch long. Bullets. It's quite simple, said Doctor Who. Yates fired the entire magazine of the submachine gun at me, and I caught the bullets. This is the liquid. The doctor held up a transparent container the size of a Coke bottle. And this is all there is of it. Its preparation requires the use of a mineral found only on the planet Neptune. I happen to have some by me. However, since only 2 drops are required for a demonstration such as the one I have just given, it should last us for some time. I can think of a number of uses. Confound it, man! Ormsby's voice had risen to a near shriek. Will you kindly stop talking in riddles and tell me what you have discovered? I demand to know. I have a right to know. And furthermore, I should point out that anything you develop on these premises becomes the property of Her Majesty's government, of which you are an employee and which I represent. I am not an employee, and I recognise no governments. The doctor's voice cut like a whiplash now. However, since Captain Yates at least has a right to know, after the shock I gave him, he shook the container, and the liquid within swirled oilily. I think I shall call it Time Shrinker, since that is what it does. It's very simple. A few drops, taken by mouth or injected, speed up the metabolism, the action of all bodily functions, by an immense amount. I took 2 drops, and from then on all Captain Yates's movements appeared to me to be in slow motion. As I stood in front of him, he seemed to take 5 minutes to level his gun, another 5 to squeeze the trigger. The bullets floated from the barrel no swifter than dandelion seeds floating out on the wind, and I plucked them out of the air as easy as I would catch a thistledown. Of course, I was moving so swiftly that I became invisible to Captain Yates's normal sight, and to yours as you entered. The drug quickly wore out its effect, because I had taken so little. Here I am again. For once, Ormsby's voice had lost its stridency. He seemed stunned by what he had seen and heard. You mean, Doctor, that anyone taking that drug would become, for a time, an invisible man? Rather more than that. He would become an invisible Superman. This could be the greatest weapon ever invented. Lethbridge Stewart thumped his fist on the desktop. One man with the drug could outrun an express train, leap 100 yards, fight an entire army. The Master will never be one jump ahead of us again. With this stuff we can... If you'd only let me finish my explanation, the doctor sounded tired. The drug is remarkable, yes, but there are certain side effects. Anyone taking it becomes a Superman, as I told your fat friend, and really, Doctor, Lethbridge Stewart looked up in irritation, waiting for Ormsby's angry outburst at hearing himself so described. He doesn't mean it, Sir Norman, it's just that he... But the Brigadier's voice trailed away into silence. When they had entered the office, Ormsby, an unusually silent Ormsby, had brought up the rear. He had remained standing near the door as Lethbridge Stewart, Yates, and the doctor had plunged excitedly into their plans. But now he wasn't there. The door was open, and Ormsby had gone. In the sudden silence, one line from his thoughts earlier that morning burned through Lethbridge Stewart's mind. Ormsby's like the Master in one way, crazy for power, and not fit to be trusted with it. His worst fears came true when he burst into the laboratory, one step ahead of the doctor. Ormsby was not there either. The container for the time shrinker stood on the bench where the doctor had left it. It was empty. Ormsby watched with a kind of contemptuous fascination as the armed soldier at the gate raised his hand to swat at a wasp that buzzed a foot or 2 from his face. The man's hand came up so slowly that Ormsby could have hung his coat on it, sat down to eat a 3-course meal, and risen to find his coat still hanging in almost exactly the same place. The orange and black insect before the man's face hung seemingly motionless in the air, the sunlight glinting through its outspread transparent wings. Man and insect, thought Ormsby. What's the difference? Compared to me now, all men are but insects. I can snap my fingers at guards, walk through the tightest security net. By the time the drug wears off, and that may be months, I will be the most powerful man the world has ever known. So powerful that when I return to my normal state, I shall retain my rightful eminence. I am not a man any longer. I am a god. With a laugh that had little mirth but a great deal of madness in it, Ormsby pushed through the gate, leaving insect and man in their frozen, timeless confrontation. In the road outside, he leaped effortlessly over a motionless double-decker bus filled with gaping waxwork passengers. Then he set off at a brisk walk along the road towards London. His thoughts piled haphazard on one another. The Bank of England, the Crown Jewels, a few choice pictures from the National Gallery for the base I shall establish. Let me see, I rather think Windsor Castle would be the place, or Buckingham Palace. I should have no difficulty in making the present occupants move out. And, for when I return to normal, something to make sure my subjects obey me. Perhaps a few nuclear bombs. I could take over a whole country. So deep was Ormsby in his plans as he went along, through a landscape in which nothing seemed to move but himself, that he failed to notice a growing smell of scorching, and the increasing heat he put down to the bright summer sun. "For pity's sake, Doctor, what are we to do?" Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart was a man not given to despair, but now he was perilously close to it. "We're nothing but puppets in Ormsby's hands. That madman, he could rule the world now. He will rule the world. Compared to him, the master's nothing." After the first shock of finding the drug and Ormsby gone, the doctor had been silent, deep in thought. Then, amazingly, his usual mood of dry humour seemed to return, and now he was positively cheerful. "You underestimate the master, Brigadier. He would never have made such a stupid mistake. If he had the drug, then he certainly would rule the world, but poor Ormsby. Well, I think we shall be hearing of him soon. Of him, but not from him. Not ever again." To the people of the village that lay about 5 miles down the road from unit headquarters, it looked like a meteor. But meteors do not move across country at express train speed, only a foot or two off the ground. Meteors burn a fiery path through the sky, not through fields and woods. Meteors, when they flash through space, make no noise in the vast emptiness between the stars. This meteor made a high, thin, screaming noise. Imagine a gramophone record of a human voice played at 50 times its normal speed. That was the kind of noise this meteor made. It blazed a trail of scorched earth about 4 feet wide wherever it passed. In its wake, woods burned and all living things nearby died. It was lucky, everyone agreed, that no human was near its path. It was an incredible sight, but it was all over in seconds. The amazing meteor flashed across country for 3 miles and then went out in a final flare of scorching heat. Within minutes, cars were converging on the spot where it had flamed to its end. It was a circle of blackened earth. At its centre lay what might have been a charred tree, a brittle, shriveled sapling. Only the Brigadier and the Doctor could have traced any resemblance to a human outline in what remained of the man who planned to rule the world. Of course, he would have died of old age within a few minutes. Perhaps this was a better way. He can have had very little time to feel pain or regret. The Doctor turned away from the charred circle, and the Brigadier fell into step beside him. It was friction, you see. He was moving at something like the speed of sound, and that generates immense heat. He must have noticed it too late to stop himself becoming a human fireball. I took only 2 drops of the drug, and even I became unpleasantly warm simply by walking across the laboratory. And old age, Doctor? The other side effect. Not deadly to me or to the master, for we are rather different from normal men. With a speeded up metabolism, say from 2 drops of the drug, a man would live an hour in every one of our seconds. With the dose Ormsby took, well, I should imagine he was about 200 years old when he... And with a small movement of his hand, the Doctor indicated the crowd around the meteor's funeral pyre. But now, Brigadier, I shall have to begin work on another way to counter the master's next move.